So I finished the Fast and the Furious movies. I finished all of them, and I need to compile my thoughts here so that I can move on with my life. Originally, I was gonna break down every single one of these movies, but then I realized that I didn't want to do that because that would just be, well, one, that would be far too time consuming, and two, I don't think anyone would actually argue that these movies were good. I think that even the people that like The Fast and the Furious will accept that the movies suck. So I'm just going to summarize my overall thoughts here. In general, I'd say that if you love Paul Walker and if you love Vin Diesel, then these movies are great and you're going to enjoy them. And I will admit that the movies did get a little bit better as they went on. You can actually look at the critical reviews of these movies and they go up over time, probably because The Rock was in the later movies and The Rock makes everything better. But if you don't love the people in the movie, if you don't love Vin Diesel, and if you don't love Paul Walker, and if you don't love The Rock, well, then the movies are, the goal of these movies was to fill seats in the theaters and to provide bright lights and flashing colors. The Fast and the Furious is like a fireworks show on the 4th of July. Fireworks are loud and colorful, and they entertain us for about 15 minutes. But the problem with these movies is the same problem that you'll have with fireworks shows. They're short-lived, and afterwards there's no discussion to be had, because fireworks aren't worth talking about. Let's do the fireworks example. If you wanted to reminisce about some fireworks, the most that I can really say to a friend is, hey, do you remember that really cool firework that was like, pa-chow, pa-chow, and then it was all like, pa-chow, 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 and my friend could say, yeah, that was a really cool firework. But if you think about it, that's kind of a lame conversation. And those are the conversations that you might have when it comes to the Fast and the Furious. Hey, do you remember that cool stunt where they did the car with the thing? Actually, truth be told, I was a little bit sad that there weren't more cars in the Fast and the Furious. I thought they would be driving cars all the time. They're actually not, so the conversation would probably go a little bit more like this. Hey, do you remember when they tried to steal the thing? Oh yeah, it was cool how they tried to steal the thing, and then they just stole the thing. When the movies are over, that's all you get, really, and none of the movies are really worth revisiting, or remembering for that matter. The plot of each movie is just an incoherent, forgettable mess of nonsense, and I'm gonna give a counterexample here to illustrate what I think is the difference between a good mindless movie and a bad mindless movie. I will say that the Fast and the Furious movies are good mindless entertainment. If you're gonna see a movie and there's nothing else in the theater, then maybe it's not so bad. But once the movie's over, you never want to go back, and I really don't want to talk about them anymore. On the other hand, I want to bring up one of my favorite mindless movies, The Bourne Identity from 2002. Have you seen it? This movie is adorable. This movie is so mindless. If anything, the plot of The Bourne Identity is even easier to explain than any of the Fast and the Furious movies. Here it goes. Matt Damon lost his memory, so he's running around trying to figure out who he is, and it turns out he's also a badass. That's it. That's the movie. No further thought required. Watch him beat people up for 2 hours. But what makes it good is that we talk about the movie afterward. It's quotable and memorable. Talking about the plot of The Bourne Identity is actually fun, and these things make a world of difference. Hey, do you think it's even possible to float in the ocean unconscious for an hour and still live? Dude, can you believe this guy knows like 8 languages but can't remember his name? Is that even a real thing? Could that really happen? What would you do? What would you do if you woke up and you had completely lost your memory? What would you do? And most importantly of all, do you remember that scene where Matt Damon has a knife fight with this guy, but because Matt Damon didn't have a knife, he used a ballpoint pen that he found on the desk? How sweet was that? Do you think that's feasible? Do you think that's a possible thing? Can you really stab someone with a pen like that? Does that work? Let's go to the store. Let's go to the store and buy some steaks. You know what we're gonna do with those steaks? We're gonna cook them, and then we're gonna test this out.